Right. Regret that I had to suddenly inform yesterday, but then I also got the news only in the morning. Unfortunately, my aunt passed away. There's just one thing. In fact, two things I had to tell you. One good, one bad. So, no. Extra class I'll arrange later. I know that these are festive days, and you won't be in a mood of an extra class, for sure. दिवाली के एक दिन पहले बुलाकर मैं एक्स्ट्रा क्लास कराऊंगा तो आप मेरा दिवाला बना दोगे तो वो मैं करूंगा नहीं. So I won't be torturing you across. No, I had something else to tell you. So one is that many of you might be planning to go back home or may have to miss some lectures offline mainly. Online people are getting the videos anyways. So in case you are planning that, then what you can do is you can send a mail to support@nextias.com and mention how many days lecture you will need. I have set the upper limit as second. बहुत से बहुत छठ तक रहोगे घर में उसके बाद तो आ ही जाओगे. अगर उसके आगे रहोगे तो फिर मैं एक्सेसिबिलिटी नहीं दे रहा हूं. ऑलराइट, जब तुम यहां हो कहीं नहीं जा रहे तो आलस्य को परम धर्म मत बनने दो. ठीक है, तब आ जाओ. अगर तुम बाई चांस तुम चाहो तो तुम भी ये मेल कर दो, तुम्हें भी मिल जाएगा, ऐसा नहीं है. अगर मैं तुम्हें अभी एक बात बताता हूँ, ये चाहूँ तो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. तुम लोगों को ऑनलाइन एक्सेसिबिलिटी भी दे सकते हैं, वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग भी दे सकते हैं. बट ये मैंने जानबूझ के डिसीजन लिया है कि तुम्हें ना दूं. ये ट्रस्ट मी, ये तुम्हें बचाने के लिए. अभी आप चाहें मैं अपने फोन बुक में आपको दिखा देता हूँ. Even now, and deliberately, I'm saying this to offline people only, that I am deliberately not giving you accessibility. और मेरा बस चले तो मैं तो ऑनलाइन वालों के वीडियोस भी 3 दिन में हटवा दूं. वो तो मेरा बस चल नहीं सकता, तो वो नहीं होता. But I'll tell you why I say that. I started a batch that was in January 2021. You can imagine, now we are reaching January 2023. It was in January 2021. And that batch got over. COVID आ गया बीच में, अप्रैल में. It was bad COVID that year, Delta variant and all. तो वो बैच थोड़ा लेट खत्म हुआ, जून में खत्म हुआ. Then the people in that batch requested that let the videos continue till our mains exam. We said that's perfectly all right. We will let it continue. Now the mains happened in January 2022. So you can imagine 6 months gone by. And then the people said that if the videos could remain for another couple of months, we will be able to finish them. I gave accessibility to video till June 2022, saying that all right, why 2 months, keep it for 5 more months and finish it off. In June we started getting messages, जैसे आपका टेलीग्राम ग्रुप है वैसे ही उनका भी है, इसलिए मेरे पास ऑन रिकॉर्ड है सारी चीजें. मैं कुछ भी डिलीट करता भी नहीं हूँ, और कुछ चीजों के तो स्क्रीनशॉट लेके भी रख लेता हूँ कि बाद में कोई डिनाई ना कर सके. But I keep it across. So June 2022, some people said that we are still not done. Give us some more time. We have given them time till October. Now we are getting messages if it could be extended for another month. मुझे दिक्कत एक्सटेंशन से नहीं है, मैं तुम्हें भी वही समझा रहा हूँ. तुम्हें भी दे देता हूँ एक्सेस, वीडियो का भी दे देता हूँ. तुम क्लास में मत आओ, वीडियो देख लो घर से, जिस दिन मिस कर गए वो देख लो. ये सुनने में अच्छा लगता है. Imagine, but why is January batch 21 still asking for an extension in November 2022? And it's not only one batch which is doing it. I started a batch called L2 last year. That batch started last year in June. That batch got over last year in November. Last year, June 21 they started, November 21 they got over. Then we let their video remain till January 31st. Then when the video was removed, again the students requested, sir please don't remove it. We kept it till June 22. Again the request was, sir it will be very helpful in our next mains exam if that remains. It was till October 22. I am again having things saying, sir please extend it for just 2 more months. For some reason we have not been able to do it. Now and the last batch I taught, the disease has already caught up. लास्ट बैच जैसे आपको बता रहा हूँ वैसे उनको बताया था कि मैं एक्सटेंशन नहीं करूंगा, तुम खुद से पढ़ लेना, जरूर पढ़ लेना. Their batch gets over in June 2022 and they had a break also in between of 3 months. The way I'll give it to you, they also got it. And now they again need an extension after October for another at least 2 months, and this is just the beginning. इस moral of the story ये नहीं है कि तुम एक्सटेंशन क्यों मांग रहे हो, वो मांग लो, ले लो. मेरे कोई जेब से पैसा भी नहीं जा रहा उसमें तुम्हें देने में. दिक्कत उसमें यह है, सोचो अगर तुम 21 के जनवरी में एक कोचिंग शुरू करते हो और प्रीलिम्स देते हो और तुम्हारा मेंस तैयार नहीं है, क्योंकि तुम्हारे मन में बैठा हुआ है कि मैं वीडियो किसी दिन देख लूंगा। और तुम चेक कर लो, कुछ तुम में से जीएस कर रहे होगे जिस इंस्टीट्यूट में तुम्हें वीडियो दे देते होंगे, और उस इंस्टीट्यूट में कितने चीज वीडियोस पेंडिंग पड़ी हैं, अपने आप को याद दिलाओ। ऑलराइट, दैट इज माय पॉइंट, दैट ऑल दोस वीडियोस गो पेंडिंग, वी थिंक वन डे वी विल फिनिश इट, एंड बारिंग वेरी ह्यूज एक्सेप्शंस, आप में से 2-4 लोग होंगे जो कह सकते हैं नहीं सर मेरा वीडियो कंप्लीट है, लेकिन उन 2-4 लोगों के अलावा जो मेजॉरिटी है उनका वीडियो वो पेंडिंग होता चला जाता है कि एक दिन में देख लूंगा, वो एक दिन कभी आता नहीं। एंड दिस एग्जाम इज ऑल अबाउट डिसिप्लिन, बिलीव मी, इट्स ऑल अबाउट बीइंग डिसिप्लिन्ड, समटाइम्स इट इज बीइंग पेनफुल। आप, मैं सिंपैथी के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूं, बट मैं वैसे बोल रहा हूं, माय मदर्स यंगर सिस्टर पास्ड अवे and my mother is no more too, so these guys would be very close to us. Yesterday I went and she was in Bareilly, so I left 8:30 in the morning, I reached around 1 in the afternoon, I stayed there till 6:37 in the evening, came back here at 11:30 at night, had a class today morning, I had no reason to cancel it, and I never do that in my life. मैं कभी नहीं करता हूँ ये हरकतें, क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि मेरे बिना ये क्लास तो नहीं हो पाएगी। तो जब तक बिल्कुल कोई एक बहुत ही खतरनाक सिचुएशन ना हो, जैसे कल आ गया था, आई हैड टू गो बिकॉज माई यंगर ब्रदर इज टू यंग टू टेक केयर ऑफ एवरीथिंग अलोन, सो आई हैड टू गो टू बरेली टू टेक केयर ऑफ थिंग्स, एंड ऑल अदर कजन्स आर फार ऑफ, somebody is in Bangalore, somebody is in Mumbai, so I was the nearest who could reach him, so I went across, but believe me, without this discipline things don't work. तो मैं आपको इसलिए एक्सप्लेनेशन दे रहा हूँ रुक कर, कि मैं आपको इसीलिए नहीं प्रोवाइड कर पा रहा अभी, या जानबूझ के नहीं कर रहा वीडियोज अवेलेबल एंड ऑल, क्योंकि मैं चाहता हूँ तुम डिसिप्लिन्ड होकर अपना कोर्स कर लो। ये पेनफुल होगा अभी, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है। तुम्हें लगता होगा अरे कन्वीनियंट हो जाता अगर मुझे वीडियोस मिल जाते, आराम से बातें पूरी हो जाती। योर इंसेंटिव टू अटेंड द लाइव द क्लास रूम विल सडनली गो अवे, एंड देन ऑल्सो इट वॉज ओके इफ यू वर विलिंग टू डू द लाइव क्लासेस एटलीस्ट, दैट गोज अवे, देन ऑल्सो इट वॉज ओके इफ यू कुड हैव डन इट द सेम इवनिंग, बट दैट ऑल्सो गोज अवे, एंड फाइनली द लूजर विल बी यू। मेरे लिए तो अच्छा है, मैं तुम में और पॉपुलर हो जाऊंगा, यहां कुछ और चेयर्स लगाने पड़ेंगे या रूम को बड़ा करना पड़ेगा, पर वो सब मुझे करना होता तो मैं 2 बैचेस पढ़ाता। फिर तो एक बैच पढ़ाने का पर्पस ही है कि मेरे इकोनॉमिक्स के बच्चों के लिए मेरी अवेलेबिलिटी रहे पूरी, और वो क्वालिफाई करें। द ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू मेक यू क्वालिफाई, द ऑब्जेक्टिव इज नॉट टू जस्ट मेक यू सिट इन दिस क्लास एंड डू थिंग्स अक्रॉस, दैट इज नॉट द ऑब्जेक्टिव। सो इसीलिए कह रहा हूं। तो अब एक बात तो ये, जो ऑनलाइन भी मुझे सुन रहे हो, इवन दोज ऑफ यू आर लिसनिंग टू मी ऑनलाइन, don't do this mistake of leaving videos pending forever, because I am becoming a little more hard-burnt now. I'm making sure that I stop accessibility to videos after a point of time. I don't give it to people. Mainly reason is to just make sure that you have studied well. That is the only reason, that study well, get it done. Ultimately this exam is about studying. But anyway, so that was one, that, but then since I know these are festival days, आप लोग भी घर जा रहे होगे काफी सारे लोग, और मैं उसको पुश नहीं करना चाहता था, सो आई एम अलाउइंग यू टू you can just send an email to support@nextias.com for as many days as you want, with the upper limit of 3rd November. All right, so till 3rd November, whatsoever days you need your accessibility, you will be given accessibility to videos of the class. All right, because the holiday for you remains the same, 23rd, 24th and 25th. All right, these 3 days are your off, which I had told you earlier also. So these holidays will remain the same, 23rd, 24th and 25th. I'm just at the moment suggesting that we can keep having sessions, and after you come back, when some of you who leave for holidays and all, and this accessibility is available from today. Even if you are unable to come tomorrow, you can ask for accessibility and you will get it. All right, and trust me, see the numbers tomorrow. You will see that immediately. But anyway, so the accessibility is available from today. You can take accessibility if you want. I mean, you can send the email, they'll give you accessibility. Another thing that the office has to, so this is settled, I hope, that you will send your email and you can take accessibility. Next 8-10 days, you will have the accessibility to the classrooms and the videos. The second thing is that tomorrow there are some logistical issues we are facing here, as I have been told. So we will have to begin delayed by 1 hour. All right, so we will begin around 4 o'clock tomorrow. All right, only for tomorrow, but tomorrow we will begin 4 o'clock. Maybe these are bad days for our class. I don't know, yesterday we couldn't have one, but tomorrow itself, 1 more hour delay we will face tomorrow. To cover up for these delays, 29th October will be a class day. All right, 29th October, Saturday, will be a class day. All right, it's a Saturday. I had otherwise given you an off, but this Saturday also, the coming Saturday also we will meet. We will put a reminder for you on the group also, so that nobody forgets. But this coming Saturday will be a class, 22nd October, and 29th October will be a class day. All right, the Diwali holiday will be, मैं आपको लिख के दे देता हूँ. 23rd, 24th, and 25th. These 3 days, there will be no optional class. All right. Tomorrow, कल की बात कर रहा हूँ. All right. Tomorrow, class at 4. I hope it is clear for us. All right. So tomorrow there will be a class. अभी आपको हंसी आ रही है. आप देखना कोई एक जेंटलमैन या जेंटल लेडी ग्रुप पे फिर भी पोस्ट करेंगे कल 3 बजे, वी डोंट हैव द क्लास टुडे. मेरे ये सब कुछ करने के बाद भी आप देख लीजिए, मुझे काफी साल हो गए पढ़ाते हुए, मैं भी लिख लिख के ये सब कुछ दे रहा हूं, उसके बाद भी ये होगा, कोई ना कोई एक प्रकट होंगे, और नहीं हुए तो वंडरफुल, आपका बैच मुझे चमत्कृत कर देगा. You will surprise me positively. But on a serious note, thanks a lot for all the support you showed yesterday. Made me feel easy, because when I miss my classes, I don't feel very easy. I don't like it. But then all your support made me feel comparatively better. But coming back to this, so I repeat again, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. These 3 days will be your holiday. Just for clarification, October. All right. So these 3 days will be your off. So please be clear, all of you, online and offline both. 23rd, 24th, 25th will be an off, and tomorrow the class will be at 4 p.m. All right? Only for tomorrow. सिर्फ कल के लिए क्लास 4 बजे होगी, परसों से वापस आज की तरह 250 ही मिलेंगे. All right? That is how we will go about it. All right? Yes, yes. By 5:30 itself. I will not push it beyond 5:30, because I know some of you have your GS classes, and even I have my GS class at 6 o'clock. So tomorrow, that is, and today also. So I'll keep it till 5:30. We will end it at 5:30. That is why an extra session on the coming Saturday, so that without troubling anyone, we can maximize, or we can keep on track. Even otherwise, right now your batch is pretty much on track. You are at the moment around 2 hours ahead of what I was doing previous batch. So I generally keep counting like that. But then that can go away any point of time. That, one bad class where you are taking time to understand, all that advantage goes away. So we will keep it like that. So I again repeat, and then next thing I'm writing it down, that 29th October will be a class, Saturday. All right, this class will be at 2:50 itself. So these are 3 informations to keep in mind. One, you can ask support.nextias.com to give you accessibility to the lectures, live lectures. You will get live lectures also, and that I have told the office, so thankfully they have agreed that can begin from today, that even if you're leaving tomorrow, you will be able to get accessibility to the lectures. All right. Second is that 23rd, 24th, 25th October will be no optional class. All right. And third is that tomorrow there will be a class at 4. To cover up for what we lost yesterday and what we will lose 1 hour tomorrow, I think one class extra if we can have, it will be more than covered up. All right. I hope I am clear to you on all this. All right. So then we go back to our discussion on land reforms that we were doing, and I will make you write that. I hope you got the answer. All right. That 4 o'clock till 5:30. Common land is जहां गाय भैंस चरते हैं दीप्ति, उसको common land बोलते हैं. All right. That is one example of common land. It will be taken over by the government, and then it will result in getting you better things. I mean, taken over by the government and then redistributed among the government, among the people. All right. And good afternoon, all of you who are joining me online. Just one more thing. ये आपके एक दोस्त ने ऑनलाइन सजेस्ट किया है कि ये भी क्लैरिफाई कर दीजिए कि ये क्लास 4 PM पे होगी. All right. Okay. Let's see this then. So last class you were writing things down on abolition of zamindari, I think. That was the last thing you had written. We will pick it up from there, and we will now take ourselves into a discussion on tenancy protection acts. All right, or everything to tenancy reforms. So you give a heading, you write tenancy reforms. Tenancy reforms. And you write within that, can one of you lend me your notes, please? I forgot mine upstairs, don't want to go again. Thank you, thank you. You can write within that, tenants are people who cultivate. Tenants are people who cultivate land belonging to the landlord by paying a rent to them. By paying a rent to them. In the same thing you write, same point, tenancy can be of two types. Tenancy can be of two types, Tenancy. Tenancy can be of two types. First, tenant pays a fixed amount. Tenant pays a fixed amount to the landlord and all production belongs to the tenant. Belongs to the tenant. And B, second type, tenant can be a sharecropper. Tenant can be a sharecropper. A sharecropper, that is, the tenant will share a fixed proportion of output produced, a fixed proportion of output produced with the landlord. I hope you get that point, that either the tenant will pay upfront. Suppose the tenant says, all right, 100 rupees per acre is what I'm paying to you as the rent, and whatever I produce, whatever I sell, whatever is the money is all mine. All right, that is one way that tenants can influence or can pay. The second way or second method is that the tenants can say that, okay, whatever we produce, we will share a part of it with you. All right, if we produce 100 units, suppose we share 40% with you, 30% with you, and that percentage will remain with you, the rest will be ours. Now, in fact, in development theory, there is an entire theory on this, that in developing economies, most of the times, tenants prefer sharecropping rather than a fixed rent, because fixed rent is more risky. All right, in a fixed rent, if the crop goes good, you may earn a lot, but if the crop goes bad, you will lose a lot. On the other hand, if you are doing sharecropping, if the crop goes good, you may have to share more with the landlord. If the crop goes bad, still it will mean that your share will accordingly be reduced. So the fluctuation of returns in a crop sharing is much lesser than fluctuation of returns in case of a fixed rent. Do I believe I'm reaching you on this? Both cases it is a type of rent. All right. So remember, the idea is this, that if you have a fixed rent, then in a good crop, the return is very high. Because you have given your fixed rent, now entire return is yours. But in a bad crop, the return is equally low. In a bad crop, return is equally low. So in a good crop, the return is very high, but in a bad crop, the return is equally low. So that is between good crop and bad crop that we see. On the other hand, if you are on a rental share or sharing your crop, then in case of sharecropping, that is what it is called, sharecropping, in a good crop, the returns will not be as high because you will have to share it with the landlord, the part of your return. So in the good crop, return relatively less higher than which one? The one which you see in this case. But in a bad crop, the return is relatively better than a bad crop here. So just to give you numbers, even though numbers are not important, but just to give you numbers, it's possible that in a good crop here you make 100, in a bad crop here you make 20. While in this case, in a good crop here you may make 70, while in a bad crop you may end up making something like a 35. So the fluctuation in this sharecropping is much lesser. The range is of only 35. It happens good, you get 70. It happens bad, you get 35. The fluctuation is much lesser than, imagine the fluctuation in these two. You see that? The fluctuation here is something like 80. The fluctuation here is something like 35. So your fluctuations are much lesser here, and that attracts the farmers to choose sharecropping in countries like ours, because farmers are relatively poor people. They are risk-averse people, the tenants, and risk aversion means they will be happy with lesser fluctuation rather than with larger fluctuation. If they had been risk-loving people, they would have gone for higher fluctuations. All right. And why are they risk-averse? Again, I repeat, because they are relatively poor, they are landless people, they are doing tenancy on somebody else's land. So that tells them, okay, even if we get some return, but that should not, even if that is not very high, but that saves me from a very low return otherwise, then let's not take the risk and be settled with this. You understand that? So that is the theory. Now, again, you just needed to know this theory, because that is a big basis of decision by the farmers in India or in developing countries like India to choose more sharecropping than pure rent when it comes to deciding tenancy in any country. All right, that has an impact per se. Yes, yes. नहीं, फिक्स्ड रेंट में रिटर्न फिक्स नहीं है, रेंट फिक्स है. क्योंकि अब सोचो, अगर 1000 रुपए का प्रोडक्शन किया मैंने, तुम्हें मुझसे 30 रुपए ही लेने हैं, तो मेरे रिटर्न्स क्या हो गए 970, है ना। लेकिन अगर 30% रिटर्न लेना था तो मेरे रिटर्न्स होंगे 700, ठीक है। लेकिन ऐसे ही जब खराब क्रॉप होगा और प्रोडक्शन हुआ 100 रुपए का, अब मेरे रिटर्न्स घट के 70 हो जाएंगे, 30 रुपीज रेंट तो देना ही पड़ेगा। लेकिन जब 30 रुपीज, जब फ्लक्चुएशंस कम हो गई, आई मीन जब रिटर्न्स लो हुए प्रोडक्शन में, तो शेयर भी तो कम करना पड़ेगा ना। तो रेंट के केस में रिटर्न फिक्स नहीं होता, रेंट के केस में रेंट फिक्स होता है। सो इफ द रेंट इज फिक्स्ड, दैट मीन्स दैट इफ आई हैव अ गुड क्रॉप, then I give the rent to the landlord, rest everything is mine. But if I have a bad crop, then even though I have a bad crop, the fixed rent has to be given to the landlord. So it's possible that I may end up with a loss. ठीक है, ये चीज की बात है। Now you write in the same thing, no, land leases are different things. Fixed rent is about telling someone that I am giving you my land to cultivate, say for 1 year or 1 cropping season, and you have to pay me this much amount in return of cultivating that land. Again, I repeat, for 1 year or 1 cropping season. Land lease is, I own a piece of land and I tell you that, okay, you keep this land for 20 years, 30 years, 60 years, and so on, and you do whatever you would like to do on this land. So leasing is done for that purpose. So leasing is a form of renting, but all renting is not leasing. All right. नहीं, लेकिन बाद में भी देना तो पड़ेगा ही ना, ठीक है। एडवांस में मत दो, लेकिन देना तो उतना ही पड़ेगा जितना कमिट किए हो। ऑल राइट। मैं मान लो इस रूम का रेंट देता हूं, 1 मिनट के एग्जाम्पल ले लें, 100 रुपए। अब इस रूम में मैं 1 स्टूडेंट पढ़ाऊं या 100 स्टूडेंट पढ़ाऊं, जो रेंट मांगेंगे उनको इससे मतलब थोड़ी ही हो गएंगे मेरे 100 रुपए दे दो, तो वो रिस्की है ना। और अगर मैं उनको बोलूं जितने स्टूडेंट पढ़ाऊंगा उसका 1% आपको दे दूंगा पैसा, उसमें मैंने रिस्क मिनिमाइज किया ना अपना। ज्यादा पढ़ाऊंगा तो डेफिनेटली उनको भी फायदा है, लेकिन कम पढ़ाऊंगा तो मेरा नुकसान कम हो जाएगा, क्योंकि अब ये फोर्स नहीं है मुझे कि 100 रुपए ही रेंट देने हैं। You understand that? So that is why if you have a fixed rent in any system, you're taking a larger risk compared to when you are working on a proportional system. All right. Now you write in the same thing, before independence, tenancy rights were not well defined, and it means it meant that tenant could be exploited by the landlord after independence. Government introduced three major changes to bring tenancy reforms in India. Now see, when you look at this again, tenants can be of 2 types, keep that also in mind. One is occupancy tenancy, those people who are occupying a piece of land and they are cultivating and in turn giving a return to the landlord, but they are occupant of the land. And another is tenant at will. There is people who can be removed by the landlord at any point of time. So occupancy tenancy is people who are tenant on a land for generations. They have been cultivating it. And tenant at will are people who are tenants at a given point of time and can be removed from one time period to another. All right, that is the difference to keep in mind. Now see, the three reforms we brought about, one by one I will take you into that. And as I told you last class, your notes has the detailed discussion on this. I am giving you a write-up, the way you can present it to the examiner, major points, if they ask you in the exam, on all the land reforms. And I'm explaining the concepts around to you. Now the first thing that we did in this, was that we brought or we reduced the share that the tenant had to pay to the landlord. Like earlier, the share used to be up to 80% of production. In some of the areas in India, even up to 80% of production will be the share that tenant had to pay to the landlord. The government made a rule that this cannot be more than 34%. Now some of the states breached it, some states made it 40%, but still it was better than something like 80% that the tenant had to pay. So this was about making sure that the rent can be brought down. All right, that was the idea, that the rent can be brought down. If you will see your booklet also on tenancy reforms, I've given it in the heading, regulation of rent. All right, I'm making you write few things, but I've given it to you under the heading, regulation of rent. Irfan, you can leave a message for me. Check the first class that I taught, see the video, and leave a message for me. We will include you in the group. Or check your email, including the spam. You will have a link for Telegram group. I hope, Akanksha, your confusion is cleared now. That sharecropping is comparatively less fluctuating compared to the rent. No, zamindars were not tenants, Vishesh, they were owners of the land. So remember, occupancy tenants, ये word मैंने आपके notes में use किए हैं, इसलिए मैं आपसे बोल भी रहा हूँ. एक है occupancy tenants, वो tenants जो occupy करेंगे, सालों तक आपका land cultivate करेंगे generationally. There will be occupancy tenant. Another is tenant at will, tenants who are tenants for a short period of time and can be removed also by the landlord at will. All right, so these terms I have used, occupancy tenants, tenants who remain tenants for a long period of time and cultivate the same land again and again. All right, they are occupancy tenants. And tenancy at will is people who are tenants for a short period of time or who can be removed at will by the landlord. That is tenancy at will. So just keep it like that in your mind. But now I'm giving you a write-up. You write in that. So this is within the first one only. You give a heading here, A, regulation of rent. Regulation of rent. And you write in that, regulation of rent. Government reduced and when I say government here, I mean central government in this case. All right, government reduced the maximum revenue that could be charged as rent to 33% of crop value. Full stop. In certain states, in certain states like Tamil Nadu, the state government kept rent up to 40% of revenue, if the land was a superior quality land, and it was nearer to source of irrigation. Full stop. Rent was kept above 33%, even in Punjab. And please don't forget that in those days Punjab and Haryana were same. We are talking late 40s, early 50s. All right. So even in Punjab, because of much higher rent in a bracket you write up to 80%, much higher rent, and in a bracket you write up to 80%, close the bracket, which was charged before independence, So Punjab government said that we cannot drastically reduce the rent from 80 to 25 kind of. We will gradually reduce it. So they kept the rent also at 40%, 36%, 35%, and so on. But most of the other states accepted it and said, all right, the maximum rent charge cannot be above 33%. Then you write B, this was A, security, regulation of rent. Then you write B, security of tenure. Security of tenure, T-E-N-U-R-E. Security of tenure. You write, according to the new rules, landlords were not allowed to evict the tenants on their free will. Full stop. Before I tell you this point, one more thing you should keep in mind. In your notes also you will find that with the first 5-year plan, the government reduced the maximum rent to 20% to 25%. This was an ongoing process. They reduced it to 33% after independence, then made it 25%. In some states, they also declared they will keep it 20%. So this was an ongoing process, and the government kept moving in that direction. So I'm just saying that because so that you don't get confused that okay, sir said 33% in the class, and now it is written 20% to 25%. Because in this time period, from 1947 to 1956, it was an ongoing process. It just went on. All right, that new rules were coming in and they were gradually reduced. So don't get bothered, it is a time period thing, that over 10 years, the government kept reducing it. All right. In the same thing, now you write, ये 50s की बात चल रही है, 40s से 50s, मतलब 47 से लेकर 60-61 तक की बातें हो रही है। उसी बीच में ये सारे कानून बन रहे थे। ऑलराइट, इन द सेम थिंग यू राइट, in case of any eviction, in case of any eviction, the tenant had to be compensated by the landlord. So that was another thing. If there was any eviction that you do, then the tenant will be compensated by the landlord. In case of any eviction that you are doing, the tenant will be compensated by the landlord. Comma, eviction could be only through rules set by state government So that was the other thing that was done, that you can evict people but only under the rules set by state government, and in case the state government has not made a rule, then the central government rule will follow. ऑलराइट, अगर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का अपना कोई कानून नहीं है तो जो केंद्र सरकार का कानून है वही अप्लाई होगा. ऑलराइट, इफ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट doesn't have a rule, then the central government rule will follow. And the only freedom to evict without compensation was through personal cultivation rule. So that was another thing. I hope you recall from last class. Personal cultivation rule means that the landlord could say that I'm cultivating it myself with the help of my family and up to 20 workers. So in that case, the land could be taken over by the landlord. But remember, it was a big loophole. Many people were easily exploiting it. They were saying, because up to 20 workers is a large number, and plus my family members, because family members, then people, since it was not well defined, it was only said family members, so people started using the extended family. And if you have even a remote connection to a rural area, you will understand what an extended family means. You know, practically the whole village can be your extended family. You know, so that is where the law had a loophole in it. Now you change the paragraph and write, the benefit of tenancy reforms were, in a bracket you also write success of tenancy reforms. And you write in that, it reduced actual rent in agriculture. Second, it increased standard of living for tenants. And third, it resulted in better land redistribution. Better land redistribution. Because in many cases, the tenants could now get more control on the land that they were cultivating. Not the ownership right necessarily, but more control on the land that they were cultivating. Then you write below that, I'll make you write the problems of this altogether, but you can write C, the third thing in tenancy reform, and don't write it as C, you just change the paragraph and you write that. You write, tenancy reforms also included provision of, I'm repeating myself, tenancy reforms also included provision of ownership rights, for the tenants if they had cultivated the land for a stipulated time period. If they had cultivated the land for a stipulated time period. I will tell you what I mean by that. Certain states started making rules that if the tenant had cultivated land for 5 years or 7 years, the central government had made a rule of 7 years, that if a tenant has cultivated land for 7 years, then we can give them the right to cultivate, ownership right on the land with some compensation paid to the landlord. That landlord को कुछ compensation दे दिया जाएगा, उनकी ज़मीन ले ली जाएगी और tenant को दे दिया जाएगा. एक और इसमें कानून बनाया गया. Some states said we will subsidize the tenant so that they can purchase the land from the landlord. That we will give them easy loans and give them subsidies so that they can purchase the land from the landlord. But this became a drastic failure. This didn't succeed at all. One big reason was that there was a lot of oral tenancy in India. The tenancy was not on paper. The tenancy was not written. The tenancy was oral. I'll tell you, okay, you go cultivate my land, and you say, okay, I'm cultivating this land. And only me and you would kind of know about it. So now even if you report saying that, look, I have been a tenant on this land for 7 years, you have no proof to be presented in a court of law to show that you have already been cultivating for 7 years. But in spite of that, in many cases, Bihar is a prime example of it. In those days, Bihar and Jharkhand were combined. So Bihar is a prime example of it. Uttar Pradesh was an example of it, where the governments passed the rule that, okay, if the tenant has cultivated for more than 10 years, in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh it was 10 years fixed by the state government, for more than 10 years, then the land can be given to them with a compensation to the landlord. The landlords evicted the tenants much earlier than 10 years. You know, so in spite of the oral contract. And then there was a nice loophole used in it. आप एक जमीन पे खेती कर रहे हो 7 साल तक लगातार, और अगर मैं आपकी जमीन बदल दूं तो, you understand that? You can still be my tenant, but the rule is that you should have cultivated that piece of land for 7 years continuously. What I can do is after 2 years, I'll tell you, look, this piece of land is not available this year. You want, you can cultivate that piece of land. And you will go cultivate some other piece of land. Then after 2 years, I'll say now some other piece of land. So the law can be there, and I will make sure you never qualify under the law, that my land will be taken away. You understand this? So this became a reason. Plus, what were the issues? I've already given it to you in the notes. I'll give you a small write-up on that, but just explain that, understand that. Another big issue was that the land records were missing. In many cases, आप अभी भी देखेंगे इंडिया में अभी भी लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स बहुत जगह बहुत फजी हैं. In many places in India even now, the land records are very fudgy. बहुत जगह आप सुनते होंगे एक भाई ने दूसरे भाई की जमीन बेच दी, और पहले भाई को पता ही नहीं चला जमीन बिक गई. 4-5 साल बाद पता चला कि उनकी जमीन किसी और ने बेच दी किसी को. You understand that? So one brother is not even knowing. Sometimes it's not even brothers. It can be a distant relative who might have sold your land. And you realize it 5-7 years later that my land has been sold to somebody else. Why does this happen? Imagine. It happens for a reason. In 1792, when the Britishers brought in permanent settlement, and these confusions are more in the permanent settlement regions or in the temporary settlement regions. You know, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, parts of Tamil Nadu, parts of Telangana. These problems are more so in these places for a reason that Britishers said, all right, the land records are these, and they gave right on land revenue collection to the landlords. And they told the landlord, now this land is yours. In a sense that you collect revenue, you give it to us, and you let the peasants cultivate it. So landlords got the papers, permanent settlement. Now, say I am a landlord, I grow old, say I have 6 children, example de raha hu, So say if I have 6 children, I give these 6 children a piece of paper, I tell them, look, this is our land map, these are the lands that you have, and this land is now yours, this land is now yours. I divide it on a piece of paper. The piece of paper gets deposited with somebody called, say, Patwari. So there is a record maintained with the Patwari, and now my children take over that land. But nobody bothers registering the land in their name. So the land is still in my name. You understand that? That is what you call mutation. स्वामित्व scheme में यही कोशिश की जा रही है. That you come, register it in your name, mutate the land. कि ये जमीन कानूनी रूप से आपकी है आपकी, but कानूनी रूप से आपकी है जब आप उसको register कराओगे अपने नाम पर. And it doesn't end here. Now these 6 children can have 5 children each, which means the land further gets divided into 30 people, no mutation still. And again, it's not that there is no record. The Patwari is getting the record, but you can imagine as the years go passing by, and as the numbers of owners go on increasing, then it becomes very difficult to find out exactly whose land is which. Even for the government, it's not that it is impossible. But point is, it's more than difficult. Add to that more complexities that can happen post-independence or even pre-independence when one brother decides to sell his land to another brother. Now the brothers reach an understanding, okay, this land used to be yours, this land is mine, I have taken it, you take this money. The brothers pass it on to their children, this land used to be his, now it is mine, but sometimes nobody bothers even going to the Patwari to correct it. So you can imagine what kind of complexity it creates. In that complex land record scenario, and don't forget these are records which can be hundreds of years old. So even the entire written part may not be available. Which land, who inherited. In that process, if the government wants to implement this rule, first of all you will have to define who is a tenant. More difficult in this was defining whose tenant are you. 4 भाई हैं, चारों की जमीन है, चारों के पिताजी के नाम पे जमीन है. अब आप किसकी जमीन पे खेती कर रहे हो, सरकार के लिए पता करना एक आफत है कानूनी तौर से. Please understand this. The problem is to prove anything in a court of law. So if there are 4 brothers and one person is cultivating a land belonging to one of these 4 brothers, very difficult to find out whose land. The tenant knows whose land. The brothers know whose land. But if they say, no, we don't know this person, then it is very difficult for the tenant to prove it in a court of law that, no, I was cultivating this person's land. No record, it's all oral. Even the land records are fudged. The land records are years old. So this became again a problem for the government in implementing land reforms in tenancy reform part. That was again a problem. Another problem that came up in tenancy reform was that the whole rural system, the administration, was not in the favor of tenant, but in the favor of the landlord. And that was for a simple reason. They will be the rich people with influence on the administration. Sometimes they will be the administration. उन्हीं के घर के कोई बच्चे सिविल सर्विसेज कंप्लीट कर गए, अब वो सिविल सर्विस में काम कर रहे हैं. अब उनकी जमीन कैसे लेंगे? अब कभी कभी ना भी हो सिविल सर्विस में, इनका जोर जबरदस्ती चलता था. सो मेनी केसेस द गवर्नमेंट विल टेक ओवर द लैंड फ्रॉम द लैंडलॉर्ड under say tenancy reform, distribute it to the tenant. The landlord will come to the tenant's house next day. अच्छा तुम मेरा जमीन लेने लगे हो अब. It will be a statement given, just accompanied by 8-10 people. with lathis in their hand. You know, so 8-10 people with big wielding sticks. And this fellow is now coming over. वो पहुंच जाए उनके घर तक तो बड़ी बात होगी, उनको उठवा के लाया जाता था. You know? ये भी नहीं होता था कि लैंडलॉर्ड जाएंगे, उनको उठा के ले आए. So the fellow is now brought up, and the fellow is asked that what exactly are you going to do, and so on. And the person had no major choice. The person will say, oh, I don't know, sir. The government gave it to me. I had no idea that this is going to happen. And then the landlord, if the landlord was kind of the normal landlord, the landlord will simply say, okay, then write the land back to me. There was a provision for it. The government had introduced it in the law. This was called voluntary surrender. That I voluntarily surrender my land in the name of the landlord. I am not in a position to cultivate. The state governments had a law on this. It was only in 1980s that Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, West Bengal, around 6-7 states, I've given you the name in the notes, they made a law that voluntary surrender can be done only in the presence of state government authority. Voluntary surrender cannot be done on its own. But this law also did not help much because it was a prefixed match. Even in front of state authorities, the peasant did not have the authority to say, नहीं मुझसे जबरदस्ती किया जा रहा है, उनको पता बाद में पीटेंगे मुझे. So the peasant won't do. Sometimes the landlord would be nice to them. They would say, oh, अब तुम्हारा नाम कर ही दिया जमीन को, कोई बात नहीं, चलो कुछ पैसा तुम्हें दे देते हैं, जमीन वापस मेरा नाम लिख दो. And that money will be 10% or 5% value of the actual value of land. So the landlord would give them show them some mercy also by saying, oh, 100 rupees का जमीन है, 100 तुम 5 rupees ले लो, जमीन तो मेरा ही है, but तुम ही रख लो ये जमीन, कोई बात नहीं है. And this would be done completely in the open space. Everybody would know this is happening. But as I told you, since the administration was with the landlord, in many cases the administration was absent. It was just not there. And judiciary तक जाने के लिए peasant के पास भी हिम्मत होनी चाहिए. So in spite of the rule, the system continued. And that was the failure of tenancy provisions in India. But as I made you write 2-3 points, that it did result in reducing the rent for the tenant. It did result in improving better land holding for the tenant and standard of living for the tenant. So that definitely, no doubt, was happening. All right. In the same thing, you please write, the problems observed in tenancy reforms, tenancy reforms were as follows. Those days you could not digitalize, Anusha. We are talking 60 years back. All right, for personal cultivation rule, Viraj, go back to the previous class, see it. All right, now see this. So you write them as again 1, 2, 3, 4 or A, B, C, D. So you write first, lack of land records, B, possibility of voluntary surrender, C, many states did not recognize tenants as did not recognize sharecroppers as tenants. Many states did not recognize sharecroppers as tenants. I'm sorry. And fourth, you write, lack of lack of clarity on rules related to personal cultivation. Alright, now see, I'm deliberately giving you a write-up like this. Sometimes for 150 words, they can ask you only tenancy reforms. Alright, like they will not ask you the entire land reforms. They will say, okay, give us 1 page on only tenancy reforms. So in such cases, what you should do is, I've given you around 100, 120 words. You should write an introduction talking about how tenancy reform is one part of land reform. Then talk about what are the 3 ways of tenancy reforms, who are sharecroppers, etc. Then talk about what are the benefits of tenancy reforms, what are the challenges of tenancy reforms, and then 20 words conclusion you can write that therefore tenancy reforms were successful to some extent, but a lot of development that was needed was not observed among these reforms. All right, so 2 reforms are important that can be asked for 150 words individually. One is tenancy reforms and the other is land ceiling. These are the 2 things that they can ask you for 150 words individually. So on tenancy reforms, I was trying to give you around 150 words so that if in case they ask you a question, you have enough material to write down only on tenancy reforms. Few more things are in your notes also. So combine the notes and the talk I gave you. In the notes, what you will have is some more examples and an elaborate way of expression. That is all that you have in the notes. Then you write, yes. Yes, in fact, majority of the states did not recognize sharecroppers as tenants, hiding behind the theoretical definition of tenancy. Theoretically, sharecroppers cannot be tenants. They are sharecroppers. Tenancy means paying a rent on the land. So majority of the states lay behind it. And one big factor was lack of political will and bureaucratic apathy. Both of these things were there. That the political system was also not very willing to get things. Because wherever they were willing, they got it done. Like West Bengal after the communists came to West Bengal. So we had the Bargardari system and they took actions to remove Bargardari and make sure that they reach benefits for the poor. Alright, similarly in Kerala they could do that. So that implies that wherever the government was conscious, they could get it done. But wherever the government was not conscious, it could not happen. In fact, good you asked me that question. You put a note below this. I'm giving you around 50-60 words on removal of sharecropping or Bargardari system in West Bengal. Bargardari, Bargardari. Sharecroppers को बर्गरदार बोलते थे वहाँ. All right, the sharecroppers will be called बर्गरदार. The way they are called बटेदार्स and all in other places. Yes. That is what was said. But actually sharecropping was land given on rent that you cultivated for this much time, and there was no partnership as such. Partnership suggests equality, isn't it? But there was no equality here. The person who is giving you land is doing you. मालिक बोलते थे वो लोग लैंडलॉर्ड को. तुम आज भी अपने गांव जाओ तुम्हें मालिक बोलेंगे बहुत सारे लोग. अगर तुम लैंडलॉर्ड बैकग्राउंड से हो तो मालिक क्यों बोलते थे? इसमें मालिक होने की कौन सी बात हो गई? समझ रहे हो मेरी बात? वो छोटा होता था ना, बड़ा ईगो बूस्ट मिलता था. गांव गए, वहां कोई आए, बोले अरे मालिक आप कैसे? अरे मैं मालिक, मेरी ऐसे खुद की कोई इज्जत नहीं, लेकिन ये मालिक बुला रहे हैं. हाँ, छोटे मालिक भी बोलते थे. तो लेकिन ये टिपिकल फ्यूडलिस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर था. दैट कहने के लिए तो आप शेयर क्रॉपर हो और पार्टनर हो, बट एक्चुअली यू आर लाइक अ पर्सन हु इज सर्वाइल to the landlord. So the landlord would be the master and the peasant would be the servant. So that is why then essentially then it was like a rental arrangement on the land, which was worse than a rental arrangement, a feudal arrangement tha. That was the idea. But many state governments hid behind this rule. You write in this, you write under Bargardari system, under burgerdari system peasants were, I was actually thinking over a question that one of your friend asks, and that is something that applies even today's India, so I will just quickly answer that and then go ahead. That what could the central government do so that these things don't happen? But point is, we are talking 1950s. In all the states, the government was of the same party which was ruling the central government. You know, Congress party was ruling the central government and Congress party was ruling in the states with exceptions, no exception till 67, except EMS Namboodiripat's government in Kerala, which was dismissed midway. But if you remove that exception from the system, Congress party was ruling the states and Congress party was ruling the center. So saying that what could the central government do if the state governments were not listening? Well, maybe the state governments were not listening because the central government was also not forcing them to listen. The same story I see today also. Bharatiya Janata Party rules the central government and Bharatiya Janata Party has government in 16 states of India. So surely if they want something to be done at state level, those states which have their government can think about trying it. For example, agricultural reforms. We made such a hula baloo of it. You know, we talked so much about it. I spent 1.5 years of my life, hours of my life recording a video explaining it to people. But all that came to nothing. But point is, why should the central government pass a law on agricultural marketing? Why can't a Madhya Pradesh government or an Uttar Pradesh government, these are the major agrarian states of India, let's not forget. You know, when the laws were passed, then even the Bihar government, because Nitish Kumar ji was with the BJP itself in those days, or the Assam government, and so on, Karnataka government, all of these can start making rules which can be about agricultural marketing, and they can make it successful, and let the law be successful, and let the demonstration effect be felt by others, and then the people will demand, make a rule for me also. You understand that? So please be careful. ये सेंटर स्टेट खेलना हमारे देश में आज की नहीं 50-60 साल की बात है. जब किसी को ज्यादा कुछ नहीं करना होता तो कहते हैं सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने कह दिया, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट वाले कहते हैं सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने किया, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट वाले कहते हैं स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने किया. Oil price is a typical case in point even in today's India. The state chief ministers will say, oh, the central government is charging a lot of tax, but all the state governments are charging heavy tax. Kerala has a supposedly communist government, but they have a 31% tax on fuel. 31%, highest in, no, not highest, I'm sorry. Highest is in West Bengal, 34%. And all these are opposition ruled states, and opposition continues complaining that why is oil price so high in India? Ask yourself, why is it so high in India? So please be careful. मैं बार बार आपको रुक के वार्निंग देता हूं इंडियन इकोनॉमी पढ़ाते हुए कि तुम ये यूपीए एनडीए खेलोगे तो परेशानी रहोगे. End of the day, it's the system we are creating, the government mechanism we are running, whether people were actually willing to implement the rules or not. And governments, I'm using plural, governments in many places were not very willing to implement these rules. I've given it to you in your write-up also, calling it the apathy of bureaucracy and lack of political will. The political will was lacking, apathy was there in bureaucracy. Why is bureaucracy apathetic at times? Why would bureaucracy be apathetic? Think of it. Okay, I'll give you an example, you will get the apathy of bureaucracy. You may have to experience it within a couple of days. अभी 2 दिन में तुम्हें शायद कुछ लोगों को एक्सपीरियंस करने को मिल सकता है. आपने एक मेल भेजा, NextIAS support@nextias.com. I would need my lectures to be available from tomorrow as Vibhas has allowed me, and I don't want to see him live sitting in the class, so I would be at home and see him. Say you do that. Now what would you expect? A response in maximum maybe couple of hours, and maybe accessibility and allowing you to watch the video by tomorrow morning. But make yourself now a person sitting at NextIAS support, जो बैठे होंगे इस हेल्पलाइन पे, जिनको इस तरह के करीब 1000 मेल्स आए होंगे, क्योंकि हर ऑप्शनल में ये बात चलेगी अब तो. क्योंकि मैंने इकोनॉमिक्स ऑप्शनल के लिए परमिशन लिया तो बाकी जगह तो होगा ही। अब आप मान लो 10 लोगों की भी टीम हो, यू नो, और 1000, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि टीम में कोई कमी है, बट 1000 मेल्स आ गए। इनके वर्क टाइमिंग्स होंगे 9:30 to 6:30। आपने मेल भेजा रात को 8:30 बजे, ये अपना छुट्टी करके घर जा चुके हैं। इन्होंने आपका मेल देखा, ओके टुमारो आई विल सी एक्सेसिबिलिटी कैन बी गिवन, क्लास तो कल दिन को है 3 बजे। फिर ये अपना ऑफिस आए, ऑफिस आके बिजी हो गए, कोई दूसरा मेल आ गया, कोई बात हो गई, कोई कहानी हो गई, 11 बज गए इतनी देर में, आपने 2 मेल और भेजे। उसके बाद आपने टेलीग्राम पे मैसेज डाला @VJ1976 प्लीज डू समथिंग अबाउट इट, @संदीप सर प्लीज डू समथिंग अबाउट इट। अब इसमें ना आपकी गलती है ना उनकी गलती है, लेकिन दोनों के इंटरेस्ट अलग अलग हैं। यू बैडली वॉन्ट टू सी इट, सो यू वॉन्ट कन्विक्शन इमीडिएटली। जल्दी करो भाई, मेरा काम निपटाओ, मैं आज रात आराम से सोना चाहता हूं कि कल सुबह मैं विभास को सीधा नहीं देखूंगा, लाइव ही देख पाऊंगा वीडियो पे, या बाद में रिकॉर्डिंग देखूंगा। उनके लिए वो उतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, तो वो कहते हैं यार मेरी छुट्टी हो गई है 6:30 बजे शाम को, मैं क्यों बैठूं, उसके बाद मैं कल सुबह जाता हूं 9:30 बजे, फिर देता हूं आपको एक्सेसिबिलिटी। इसे ही कहते हैं ब्यूरोक्रेटिक एपैथी। You understand that? Nobody is that. I'm not saying bureaucrats are villains there, but they're not doing it because for them it is not that important that you get it done immediately. So they say, okay, we'll get it done. उसमें कोई ज्यादा आकर बोलते हैं, अरे करी दो, अरे करी दो, तो आप देखना गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसेज में, प्राइवेट ऑफिसेज में बोलते हैं कभी कभी आपको, रुक जाओ भाई, कर तो रहे हैं। That is apathy. That people feel, okay, I'll get it done. कल मुझे कोई बोल रहे थे, I was a little worried about the class not happening. Somebody told me, okay, it will happen some other day. उनको ही मैंने नहीं कहा, मैंने कहा this is apathy. यही एपेथेटिक है कि वो कुछ बात नहीं हुई तो हो जाएगी बाद में, और वहीं से तो इनएफिशिएंसी का बर्थ है, बट वो नेचुरल है ह्यूमंस में। आपको एक और एग्जांपल देता हूं, तुम्हें ब्यूरोक्रेटिक एपैथी और अच्छे से समझ आएगी। आप हुए एक छोटे बच्चे, और बॉयज को तो ये बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस हुआ होगा, बॉयज मस्ट हैव एक्सपीरियंस्ड इट अ लॉट। गर्ल्स इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि तुम गर्ल्स हो, गर्ल्स इसलिए क्योंकि गर्ल्स इन चीजों में जनरली प्रॉम्प्ट हो जाती हैं ज्यादा, बॉयज थोड़ा कैजुअल रहते हैं। मैं खुद ही एक मेल हूं और किसी का सन रहा हूं, अब तो मेरी मदर नहीं है, पर मैं आपको बताता हूं क्या होता है। मम्मी आए बाहर से, बेटा ये पैसे ले, सामान लेकर आ। अब आप लगे हुए हो कुछ पढ़ने में, या लगे हुए हो टीवी पे कोई अच्छा मैच देखने में, या अपना कोई वीडियो गेम खेलने में। आपने पैसे ले लिए, हाँ लाता हूं, वो गया जेब में। अब आप लगे हुए फिर से खेलने में। अब मम्मी ने चीख मारी किचन से, गया क्या, जाता हूं। अगेन आपकी एपैथी है ये, मम्मी को चाहिए अभी, उन्होंने हो सकता है आपको नमक लाने को भेजे दे रहे हो, या टमाटर लाने को दे रहे हो जो उनको अभी खाने में बनाना है, उनकी इमरजेंसी अभी है, आपको नमक टमाटर से क्या लेना देना। अगर वो कहेंगे भी वहां से, ओ आई गिव यू दिस money, I need salt immediately or I need tomato immediately, what will be your standard response? अरे यार मम्मी खाना तो 10 बजे रात को खाना है, तुम ये 6 बजे टमाटर लाने को बोल रहे हो, अभी 10 मिनट रुक के चला जाता हूं, इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात हो गई। ये ब्यूरोक्रेटिक एपैथी है। आपके कन्विक्शंस अलग अलग हैं, आप उसी वक्त नहीं जाना चाहते क्योंकि आपको लग रहा है बाद में जाने से काम चल जाएगा, मम्मी को लग रहा है अभी जाना चाहिए। तो आप समझिए ये बात, जब एकेडमिकली आप पढ़ते हैं दैट वो ब्यूरोक्रेटिक रेड टेपिज्म एंड ब्यूरोक्रेटिक एपैथी, bureaucrats were responsible for India getting delayed in reforms and all, not because bureaucrats were villains, it was not the case, but the bureaucrats had too much on their platter, they had several things to do, there are too many push and pulls to manage, and along with that these things came in. So depending on everybody's personal conviction, the statements and decisions will be taken. And everybody will not be convinced about these things equally. And I'm not even using the word corruption right now. You add that to it and the apathy can become more acute. कि अब मान लो मम्मी का वो पैसा तुम्हें जेब से निकालने की इच्छा ही नहीं कि रह गया तो मम्मी शायद भूल जाए, फिर मैं चॉकलेट खाऊंगा, इसी को करप्शन बोलते हैं। फिर तो वो बोलेंगे गए जाता हूं, गए जाता हूं, गए जाता हूं, जाऊंगा, और 2 दिन बीत गए, तुम गए थे, गया तो नहीं था, पैसे कहां हैं, पता नहीं, मैंने तो जेब में ही रखे थे। So please understand that systems have to be created which are good or bad. I deliberately sit down and give you these examples because you cannot appreciate Indian economy and the movements and these talks unless you don't appreciate that they can be normal human errors every time. Everybody doesn't have to be a villain or a hero. They're normal human errors which were happening, and these errors were happening in India in those days also, and that was a big issue in getting these reforms passed. All right, so just keep it like that in the mind. So central government, state government, well, end of the day, the governments will become a little apathetic because the government will think, आप सोच के देखिए, सरकार ने क्या कहा, हंगर इंडेक्स की डेटा है, सरकार ने बोला we have spent 2 lakh crore rupees on removing hunger, distributing food for free among people under प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना. तो क्या कहा सरकार ने? What did we do? We spent 2 lakh crore rupees. But there is no record of how much food reached every person. And there is no record taken of nutrition evaluation of each person. Those missing records are the reason of corruption, reasons of lack of knowledge, and the reasons that you, even if you have done something for your poor, you cannot pinpointedly challenge something like a hunger index. अब अगर ये रिकॉर्ड्स इंडिया ने रख लिए होते 2014 से लेकर 2022 तक के, मैं तो सरकार की तरफ से ही बोलता हूं, अगर आप में से कोई सरकार के सपोर्टर हो तो उनको मेल कर देना कि आप ऐसा क्यों नहीं करते, that collect all the data even starting now and collect the data on nutrition, data on healthcare, data on Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana's delivery to the people, how much was received by people. You'll say, sir, where will the data come from? No food is delivered in India today without an Aadhaar imprint. तो पॉइंट ऑफ सेल तो है हर चीज का, जहां पर आप जाते हो अपना अंगूठा लगाते हो चीजें लेते हो तो अंगूठे मिल जाएंगे, साथ में कितना पिकअप किया वो मिल जाएगा डेटा. तो ऐसा कोई रॉकेट साइंस है नहीं, और क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग के दिन है तो इतने स्पेस में ये सारा डेटा इकट्ठा हो जाएगा. रिलीज द डेटा टू द वर्ल्ड, टेल देम लुक दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव डन, हाउ कम यू आर सेइंग वी आर हंग्री. दैट्स ट्रांसपेरेंसी. You can't claim 2 lakh crore rupees I have given, hence people will not be hungry. 2 lakh crore rupees means, okay, you spent as much, but whether it reached the people, you don't know. And since the data is the missing point here, you can't even prove that we have given it to the people. You know what I'm trying to teach you? That we are in a gray area at the moment. Government might have spent the money, the commodities might have reached the people, but how do you prove it unless you don't project the data? और हम तो सेंसस भी डेटा कलेक्ट नहीं कर रहे, बाकी छोड़ो. 2021 सेंसस शुरू होना चाहिए था ना, चलो 21 कोविड आ गया, अभी तो 22 खत्म होने को आया. So there should be more hard work on census data collection so that by 23 end maximum we should come up with the projections entirely. So be very careful, data is the driving force and it's not very difficult to collect in today's world. But if you don't do that, then these kind of conjectures, guesses will keep happening. I hope I'm reaching you on this. I'm trying to highlight to you some of the practical difficulties you will observe in the running of a system. System word I'm using, not a country alone, even a state government or a local government, and how to make sure that that system can be made efficient by using everything that is in your hand. So coordination among the governments, better presentation of data, and decentralizing of governance. These are the three things I need your mind to register at the moment for better functioning of such things like land reforms. You know, that you need to develop a coordination between central government, state government, local government. You need to decentralize governance, and you need to have good control on data sets. That your data should be in public domain, you should know what has happened, what has not happened, so that the analysis can be done better. I hope this can be kept with yourself. All right, now we come back to Bargardari system. You write, under Bargardari system, peasants were called Bargardars. Peasants were called Bargardars. Bargardars. That is sharecroppers. Full stop. That is sharecroppers. Full stop. They were paying 30% to 45% of their total produce to the landlord, 30% to 45% of their total produce to the landlord, to get the right to cultivate, full stop. The system prevailed in West Bengal. The system prevailed in West Bengal. Full stop. After 1977, the government of the state, that is West Bengal state of course, the government of the state continuously passed legislations to improve the conditions of farmers. Through Bargardari Removal Act, a continuation. Through Bargardari, after a full stop of course, and then through Bargardari Removal Act, the government introduced following reforms. And you can take them as ABC. So A, recognizing Bargardars as tenants. B, A was recognizing Bargardars as tenants. B, fixing maximum rent at 15% of total production. 15% of total production. C, taking away surplus land, in a bracket you write any land holding above 15 acres. Any land holding above 15 acres, 15 acres per family, not per person but per family. Above 15 acres per family, close the bracket. So taking away any surplus land and redistributing them among Bargardars, taking away any surplus land and redistributing them among Bargardars. Then you write fourth, D, identifying all landless Bargardars, like there could be marginal farmers and there could be landless farmers. This is identifying all landless Bargardars and providing them suitable compensation, comma, if land was not available, for redistribution. If land was not available for redistribution. Change the paragraph and write, the reforms improved position of several poor tenants. The reforms improved position of several poor tenants in West Bengal and it was successful in southern and eastern part of the state. It was successful in southern and eastern part of the state. It also resulted in improving equity. It also resulted in improving equity of landholding in rural West Bengal. Change the paragraph and write, however, it reduced productivity in case of plantation crops, tea plantations mainly, in case of plantation crops, and therefore did not succeed much in northern part of the state, mainly in the hilly regions, Darjeeling, Siliguri, the hilly regions, they were where it didn't succeed much. Due to, in the same thing you write, due to poor land records, many economists like Ramesh Chand, R-A-M-E-S-H, Ramesh, C-H-A-N-D, Chand. Ramesh Chand have also questioned the efficiency of distribution. Full stop. He has suggested that in many instances many instances distribution was based on many instances distribution was based on political connection and not on the need of farmer. Political connection and not on the need of the farmer. Again, if you are a member, you bear with me. But how do cadre-based parties deal? Cadre-based parties होते हैं जैसे CPI, CPM, जैसे BJP with the affiliation they have with RSS and all. How do cadre-based parties run? Cadre-based parties run by saying that you get all the benefits if you are a cadre, and no questions asked. You will be the first one who will get a benefit. And if you are not a cadre, then all benefits taken away. You understand that? Ms. Mamata Banerjee is ruling West Bengal by doing it one step better than what the communists had done earlier. So if you are a member of the Trinamool, no questions asked. If you are not a member of the Trinamool, even the questions you didn't have to answer will be asked. So that is normally done. And this is cadre-based system. Now the left had done it pretty well in India, and that was the reason they could rule West Bengal for 34 years. One big reason, because it was good enough cadre-based institution developed. And I'm not saying it is corruption necessarily, corruption included, but it is about saying that, oh, come join us, be a part of the movement, and you get all the benefits. Don't worry after that. And if you don't join us, then in the best case, we can be indifferent to you. But in the bad case, when you try opposing us, then we can come after you. And we will come after you, and we will be in majority because majority have joined us anyways. So it is like that. And that is a cadre-based system that works. Now in most of the less developed systems, it is a normal thing to do. अगर आपको मेरी बात पे आश्चर्य लग रहा है तो ऐसे सोच लो, अभी भी जिस पार्टी की सरकार बनती है किसी स्टेट में या किसी देश में, उनके मेंबरशिप्स बढ़ जाती हैं. People go and join that party, become a member of that party. Why? They expect, oh, then I will be seen on the right side of the authority. And if I am seen on the right side of the authority, I will be getting some extra benefits from the authority. So this is what had started was Ramesh Chandra, etc. was saying. It's Ramesh Chandra et al. Actually, as we write it. So Dr. Ramesh Chandra is a very famous agricultural economist of India. So he was highlighting this, that the benefits were given not on the basis of need of the person, but if you were a member of the cadre or party, and then you were getting the benefit, and that didn't then affect equity per se. So there are contradictory views, but overall, if you ask me, the general consensus is that Bargadari system removal did help in reducing inequality in West Bengal, especially in 1980s. The corruption and the other aspects set in only after mid-90s. But first 10-15 years, it was doing pretty good for itself and was changing the face of rural West Bengal quite a bit. All right, that is what was happening. Now, this is on Bargadari I gave you because UPSC has once asked a question on Bargadari in the optional paper for 150 words, but they asked it connecting it to overall tenancy reform. In case they ask you something individually on Bargadari, I gave you a page on that in case they ask you individually on what was Bargadari and how was it removed, we can have an answer to that. Yes. I will be coming to that. Let me teach you land ceiling, and I'm coming to that. But then remember, in Indian context, it was a fact that all land holding above 10 hectares were showing lesser productivity than land holdings between 5 and 10 hectares. It was not that below 5 hectares, again the productivity was low. But if the land holding was between 5 and 10 hectares, then the productivity was found to be higher compared to the productivity in above 10 hectares. And there are 3 reasons that this kind of thing happens. One is wastage is more when you have a much larger land holding. All right, or is maybe a wrong statement, but in those days it was. Second was multiple cropping was not done if you have a large land holding. You're getting your money anyways. All right. And third was the small share landholders, that is between 5 to 10 hectares, were more prudent in cultivating the land, choice of crop, amount of effort they put on land, because in many cases they were the cultivators who were the owners of the land. And above 10 hectares, the cultivators were not the owners of the land. So that was the reason that in India we saw this anomaly, that above 10 hectares the land productivity was lesser as compared to land productivity between 5 and 10 hectares. In fact, this became a justification for the next topic that I am going to teach you, which is land ceiling. It became a justification for this, that you bring land ceiling and you make land more productive in India. But I repeat again, this was proved by a comparison between 5-acre to 10-acre land and above 10-acre land. So the comparison doesn't hold true if the land holding goes below 5 acres. I hope you are understanding my point. So if you make it a below 5-acre land, again that doesn't mean that it will be more productive. ऐसा नहीं था कि relation बिल्कुल linear था या continuous था. The relation was only found to be true between land holding between, hectares and not acre, but land holding between 5 and 10 hectares and land holding above 10 hectares. So this is where it was found to be true. Other land area, well, if you go below 5, then it's possible that your again productivity might start falling. All right, so that was not, it was not a universal rule that smaller land will be more productive. Smaller land up to a limit can be more productive than a larger land beyond a limit. Now, what was this land ceiling? Ceiling means the upper limit. So land ceiling idea was, you again write down few things, you give a heading land ceiling, and we will put down few things in that. Okay, perfect. I'm working on behavioral tendencies anyways, Srishti. Bargardari, the question will be straight away to write a comment on Bargardari, critically analyze it. All right. The passage, yeah, that is a good question. The passage of Bargardari Act was 1981. The passage of Bargardari Act was 1981. You wrote the third point as on tenancy reforms as giving land to the tenants, Anuj. Okay, so let's see this Land Ceiling Act. Let's try understanding that. Now remember, land ceiling was directly connected. Land ceiling was directly connected to abolition of zamindari. It was thought that pass a rule which makes zamindars less relevant, pass a rule which makes zamindars less important, less relevant, and then take away the surplus land from zamindars and redistribute it among the peasants, and you get a more equitable distribution. That was the thinking of the day. That was the thinking of the day. All right, now how far that thinking activated itself or worked out is a separate thing, but that was the thinking of the day. So that is where Land Ceiling Act came up, and what the government did, it established a committee. This was in 1954 under S. Radhakrishnan. And Dr. Radhakrishnan, same person who became our vice president and president, of course. So it was a committee under him. And there were 5 questions given to the committee. I hope you have the notes. If you could just open up the notes. Page 18. I hope that page matches because it's not my copy. Right? So on page 18 you will see, I'm not making you write it because I just have to, I'll make you write few things, but just explaining this to you first. So first of all, it was decided that how do we put a ceiling? So what is a ceiling? If you recall, day before also I was telling you that ceiling is fixing an upper limit. That you fix an upper limit on land holding and you say that nobody can own more than this much land. आप land holding के ऊपर एक upper limit fix कर दो और आप बोलो कोई भी इससे ज़्यादा land hold नहीं कर सकता. Alright, then you are fixing an upper limit, that's a land ceiling. This land ceiling act was brought in. So one question that arose was, that which ceiling should be put up. Should the ceiling be on future land holdings, that okay, whatever you hold till today is all right, but nothing beyond this? Or should the ceiling be on the existing land holdings? क्या ये सीलिंग लगाया जाए कि आज के बाद इससे ज्यादा नहीं खरीद सकते, या ये सीलिंग लगाई जाए कि अभी भी इससे ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता और आपके पास अगर ज्यादा है तो वो ले लिया जाएगा? Alright, so this was the two choice, whether to impose a ceiling on future land holding, that okay, you will not be allowed to take more land in future, but today if you have more, we don't have an objection, or whether the ceiling should be on current or existing land holding, that even if you have a land holding more, we will take it away from you. Now, the government said no, future land holding is not a question mark we are putting right now. We will put a ceiling on existing land holding itself. Alright, so the ceiling was introduced on existing land holding. And the committee under Dr. S. Radhakrishnan was given these questions to what land ceiling will apply. That was the first question, that which will be the land which you will use for ceiling. Second was at what level the land ceiling should be fixed. If exemptions are done, what exemptions will be made, and what compensation should be given by the state. I am making you write the answer that the committee gave to each of these questions. Alright, so you write, Radhakrishnan committee suggested, ये जो 4 सवाल थे वो राधाकृष्णन कमेटी से के सामने रखे गए थे, इनके जो जवाब उन्होंने दिए वो मैं आपको लिखवा रहा हूं. Alright, I'm making you write the answer to these 4 questions given by the committee. So you write, Radhakrishnan committee suggested and you write 1, land ceiling should apply to all personally held land in rural areas, comma, unless it is not mentioned in exempted list. Second point, you write, the state government should fix the amount of ceiling, that is how much land will be kept under ceiling. Alright, so the amount of ceiling, but 15 acre per adult in each family, 15 acre per adult in each family could be taken as a standard reference point. So in a sense they were suggesting that don't go below this. Alright, you can go above this, but the standard reference is 15 acres should be the case per person, per family, per adult. Then you write, the committee suggested exemptions. Third point, yeah. Answer to the third question. The committee suggested exemptions for plantation crops, and large scale commercial production. So the committee said if it's a tea plantation, rubber plantation, coffee plantation, and so on, then exempt such land, because you cannot do plantation on a small area. To do plantation, you need a very large area. So the committee said, all right, if it is a plantation crop which you are cultivating, then exemptions can be given for sealing. Secondly, if it is a large-scale commercial crop, like say a cotton crop or a jute crop, you know, that kind of a thing, or a sugarcane crop, done for large-scale commercial purpose. What is large-scale commercial purpose? Big suppliers of raw material to the industry. Like suppose there is a sugarcane field and they are supplying in raw material to the nearby sugar industry, or there is a cotton field and supplying raw material to nearby cotton industry, then exempt them if they can establish that they are regular suppliers to a nearby industry. All right, so this was a point where they said exemption should be given. In the same thing you write, it should also be given, it should also be given in case of community land, so, you know, there are land of particular communities which can be kept by them, and that can be in large number. All right, so there is community land, land kept by a particular caste, land kept by a particular religion for the purpose of community activities. So the committee said don't implement sealing on community land. So on community lands, and exemption should be given to any land area chosen by the government now or in future for the purpose of promoting social security, like food production, for self-sufficiency, I hope you get that point. Those days India was not food sufficient. So a lot of plans were brought in that let government take over the land and then government do cultivation so that there is higher productivity, more food can be produced, and India can be food secured. So they were opening up a point for that okay, if you need land, more land for food self-sufficiency, it can be exempted from any sealing requirement. And then you write fourth, the compensation should be fixed by state governments individually. Compensation should be fixed by state government individually depending on productivity of land and other aspects of distribution. Other aspects of distribution is things like what kind of family you are targeting, how much they have been cultivating in the past, how much land are you taking away from the family. Like some families might have lost more land, some might have lost less land, and so on. So these were brought in and said that, all right, you can give compensation based on what the state government deems fit. Now, in those days, mind you, and today there are different days. Ideally, you would not think about a land ceiling and all in today's India because already the land holdings are quite fragmented. All right, they are very fragmented. The average land holding size in India is now less than 1 acre. So with less than 1 acre average size, you don't want to fragment it more. But in those days, the land holding size was relatively more and redistribution was absent entirely. Plus, don't forget, 1950s, we were not a very modern kind of economy, so wealth was mainly concentrated in land. All right, please understand these points. All right, कि आपको अगर redistribution करना हो, तो आप wealth को कैसे redistribute करोगे? Even today it's a reality to a great extent, but in those days even more so, that wealth was mostly in land, so that meant even if you had to redistribute asset or wealth, land had to be redistributed. All right, so take away that from people. Now, there were justifications given. Again, it's in your notes, so I'm not making you write anything there. First is that there is a social rationale. All right, that in an economy where already there is a lot of poverty, it is socially unjust that few people hold a lot of land area. This is what I was just telling you. All right, that socially it will be unjust, not justified. Socially ये judicious नहीं लगता कि कुछ लोग सारा land रखें और majority लोगों के पास land ना हो. All right, so socially it looked unjust that few people keep all the land and majority people don't have land. So it was said that if we do land ceiling, then we will take away the land holding from those people who have a lot of surplus, and then we can redistribute it among those who might be having a deficit or no land at all. All right, so that was the social rationale that was said. It was also said in the social rationale that there is a problem, that there is a privileged class of people who are the absentee landlords. Absentee landlords means they are the landlords, but absent from cultivating on their field. So they are the absentee landlords, and they are then further changing the social tilt. Like again, they are rich enough and they're not making any effort, while those who are making effort are not getting rich. And that was going against the basic principle that India was established at, that it should be a country for peasants and workers. All right, देखो, socialism हमने declare नहीं किया था, but socialism was the most popular theory in those days. So everybody in the larger sense wanted to achieve that. All right, that workers, peasants, they should be given their rights, they should be uplifted. So that this was the social rationale. Another was the economic rationale, as we call it, improving the position of poors. That you improve the position of poors by improving their income. That if you redistributed land, then that will mean accessibility to an asset which could produce, and the poor's income could be uplifted, and you could improve their position. If I don't have any asset, my capacity to produce is compromised. If I have assets, my capacity to produce will rise. So that was the improving the position of poor argument that it was given. In fact, there were even arguments that even if you can redistribute some of the land, you can have a major impact on rural poverty. All right, even if you can redistribute some part of the land, you can have a major impact on rural poverty. And in those days, Food and Agricultural Organization had done the research. Planning Commission used to present papers very often, suggesting that do land redistribution and uplift or upgrade the poor. When I will teach you inequality, I will bring it back. But remember one thing, the problem with any redistribution is when the rich people, when the rich people in any economy are not informed that they are rich, and they keep thinking on themselves as poor. So you need to actually define the economy well and let people know that they are rich. All right, or at least let them realize that they are rich. We see the super rich of the economy and we feel they are rich, and we don't realize that many of us can be the rich of the economy, and hence we should play a role rather in redistribution than haggling with the government to give us more. So that becomes a problem कि हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारे लोग इस बात का झगड़ा करते हैं, मुझे और दे दो, फ्री वाईफाई दे दो, हो सके तो फ्री मूवी टिकट भी दे दो, कुछ ऐसा कर लो मेरे साथ. तो ये करने का पर्पस, तो ये अमीर जो है उनको पता नहीं कि वो अमीर है बहुत बार, तो वो उस चक्कर में डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पे नहीं जा पाती बात. So that is the problem part that happened. So in Indian rural areas also, that was a problem. Third point is the efficiency argument, about which I already told you, the C.H. Hanumantrao argument. I'm just making you write 3 points here. 3 points. आप अगर कॉपी में या साइड में कहीं लिख के रख लो, you want, you can write it here. With efficiency argument, you write, so efficiency argument was that small land holdings are more efficient than large land holdings. And the comparison was, please remember, in the efficiency argument, the comparison was 5 to 10 hectares of land and above 10 hectares of land. And it was found that above 10 hectares of land were less efficient or less productive, and 5 to 10 hectares of land were more productive or more efficient. You know, that is what was the efficiency argument. And this was brought about by a very eminent agricultural scientist and economist of the day, Dr. C.H. Hanumantrao. He's quite a big name when it comes to agricultural system in India. 15 acre per adult pritha. We discussed the ownership rights. You check your notes, Manjushri. We discussed the ownership rights. I made you write also on it. Please check on that. The whole Bargardari and before that. It applied on tribal population land also, Srishti, but some of them were under the scheduled land category. No. That was not because of this committee recommendation, Akanksha. Community land was owned by the caste or the community to which it belonged. So please check, Manjushri, the last paragraph, the third reason of land reforms. We discussed everything on the ownership rights of the tenant. Please check on that. 7 years, 10 years, ये सारे lecture वहीं दे रहा था मैं. I was giving you all that lecture over there. All right, let's see this then. When you look at this, there were 3 reasons, and that is my main pinpoint. That's what I need you to write. 3 reasons why Professor Hanumantrao concluded that comparatively smaller land holdings are more efficient than the larger one. You write 1, reasons for this. So 1, more wastage on larger land holdings. More wastage on larger land holdings. More wastage on larger land holdings. Wastage in the sense leaving land fallow and all. All right. Second, more practice of monoculture on larger land holding. More practice of monoculture. Monoculture is growing only one crop all season, all through the year. So more practice of monoculture on larger land holding. And third, better focus in use of inputs. Better focus in use of inputs and better technological efficiency. Not technological use, but technological efficiency. Better technological efficiency on medium-sized land. On medium-sized land. So these were the 3 reasons that Professor Hanumantrao suggested that in India, the 5 to 10 acre land holdings are doing better than more than 10 acre land holdings. The 5 to 10 acre land holdings are doing better than more than 10 acre land holdings, a 10 hectare and 5 to 10 hectare. Yes, yes. Okay, so I'm answering the question that what could be the reason for 0.3. So the reason for 0.3 was, in many cases, the 5 to 10, the medium scale farmers, the 5 to 10 hectare people, were in many cases those who were comparatively coming from a background where they've had lesser to cover. As in, intensive cultivation could be done. That more people cultivating a smaller piece of land, and therefore more focus could be put on it. While for the larger farmers, it would mean a large amount of land, and then it was like more like a diseconomies of scale working for you. That you had to inspect a lot and see through all of them, and you were not always in a position to do that, So owner cultivated, I'm answering something which you should keep in mind. Owner cultivated and tenant cultivated. That became the third reason per se. That owner cultivation on the medium-sized land, due to which their productivity remained high, and tenant cultivation on the large-sized land. All right. So most of the large-sized lands will have a tenant cultivation system. Most of the medium-sized lands will have a owner cultivation. That was also highlighted as a reason why medium-sized lands showed more efficiency than the large-sized land. But remember, this research is around 50 years back. So in today's India, whether it holds true or not, we don't know. So please don't quote it as a part of your answer on writing something on contemporary agriculture. All right? ये गलती मत करना कि अगर आप बोलो 2022 India, let's go for lesser sized lands, as Professor Hanumant Rao had said. But Professor Rao had said this way back, 1958 was his research. And then some people tried corroborating it later. So till 1970s, we can still keep it okay, but not beyond that. So don't mention it for contemporary. But in those days, it was definitely a part of the system. All right. So that was the economic efficiency rationale again, that medium-sized lands are more efficient. So if you take away the large-sized land, redistribute it among people, then the medium-sized land holdings can do better than the large-sized land holding. In fact, Professor Hanumant Rao had even said that reduce it below 10 acres, the ceiling, that is. Yes, yes. Possible, but that has to be covered with what else you are doing. Plus remember, you will need to fence only when you are growing a high value crop in a heavily animal infested area. We are talking 50s here. So we are not talking fertilizers, and irrigation and all was shown to be more productive here. That is what was the talk. So we are not talking chemical fertilizers, but again, chemical fertilizers have shown no tendency of any match majorly with the size of the land area. They have shown similar productivity as long as the land area is not very small. All right. Okay, I'll borrow your notes again then. Thank you. Okay. So the next point was inculcating the spirit of cooperation, which is not an economic point, but it was developed in those days. बहुत ज़्यादा बोला गया, ये कहा गया कि देश को एक बनाना है, तो अगर हम कुछ लोग अपने, ये अपील जैसी बात थी. It was more like an appeal to the richer people, that if some people can sacrifice their land and give it to the poor, then that will create a spirit of cooperation where everybody will live in bonhomie. Now, I'll tell you, that is what we expect capitalists to do. But we don't expect feudalists to do that in India. It's a very strange thing. हम कहते हैं कंपनी को अपना प्रॉफिट वर्कर्स में बांटना चाहिए, लेकिन बड़े लैंडलॉर्ड को अपना मुनाफा छोटे किसानों में, अपने लैंडलेस लेबर में बांटना चाहिए. ये मांग होते मैंने देश में नहीं सुना कभी. We are a strange socialist country. I'm telling you, and this I say with a lot of talk, and I've read a lot of books on these. Thankfully, the credit goes, of course, to my wife. She introduced me to a lot of books, a lot of literature. So I was happy. I got a lot of exposure to the left rules. But in India, at least in the last 50 years, 45 years, we never see, or 40 years at least, we never see an article majorly saying that let us have a labor law for landless agricultural labor. There is no labor law asked for them. We need a labor law for everybody else. So we say don't redefine the labor law and protect the industrial labor and protect the government worker And even protect the service sector worker by giving them moonlighting opportunities and all. I'm sure you are hearing this word very often these days. You know, moonlighting is that I work for a company and then I do my work after my official work gets over. I work for somebody else also. You know, there is moonlighting. And it's not gig economy, it's moonlighting. दोनों काम जो है वो फॉर्मल है, ऑफिशियल है. इन सब के ऊपर चर्चा हो रही है हमारे देश में. लैंडलेस एग्रीकल्चरल लेबर, what rights do they have, how they should be protected, what kind of social security they should get. No discussion on that, which is pretty strange because India's total workforce is 50 crore. Out of this 50 crore workforce, 44% are in agriculture. That makes it around 22 crore. They are in agriculture. Out of these 22 crore, 33% are landless agricultural labor. Now this last data I told you from the Quinquennial Agricultural Survey 2019-20. हर 5 साल में हम agriculture का census करते हैं. मैं उसका report आपको quote कर रहा हूँ. So 33% are landless agricultural labor. That's 7.3 crore people. Now 7.3 crore will be the second highest number of people employed in any sector after MSME. And nobody even mentions them. I mean, we mention what will happen to Air India workers if Air India is sold out. We talk about how protection should be given to other workers in India. But why not agricultural, landless agricultural labor? That is again an apathy part. We are far away from rural areas, we don't appreciate their position at times. Because again, I mean, even if you are a Marxist, Marx had said workers of the world unite. He had not said workers of public sector unite. You know? So be careful on that. That, you know, that is the problem part, that if these workers are given their due and the urban workers are given their due, it will not need a huge amount of resource on that. So even if we use 10% of tax revenue, this kind of redistribution can be done. Let me teach you inequality and I'll bring it across. But keep it in mind that our total tax collection in India, central government tax collection, is approximately 22 lakh, 23 lakh crore rupees, 24 lakh crore rupees. Out of this 24 lakh crore rupees, this redistribution doesn't need more than 2 lakh crore rupees. And this will allow us to wind up on some other things that we are doing, like say a fertilizer subsidy. वो सब देने की जरूरत नहीं है, ये कर ले तो बेहतर है, and workers can be uplifted better. But that was the objective of Land Ceiling Act also, that let there be a bonhomie, let there be cooperation feeling, and then people can grow better. Now, there were 2 major cases made against ceiling. Again, it's in your notes, so I'm not making you write it. But there were 2 major cases made against ceiling. And both those cases were actually, again, Hanumant Rao's article was breaking them up. So one case made was that if you break up the land holdings, then the land holding size will fall, fragmentation of land will happen, and land's productivity might fall if the land holding size goes very low. अगर आप लैंड सीलिंग एक्ट लगाओगे, कहा यह गया, आप लैंड सीलिंग एक्ट लगाओगे, फिर एक जनरेशन में तो आपने 15 एकड़ दे दिया, अगले जनरेशन में ये डिवाइड होगा, उसके अगले जनरेशन में फिर वो डिवाइड होगा. So that will mean continuous division of land over one generation, second generation, and will reduce the average land holding size in India and thereby resulting in inefficiency. That is the first point, that the breakup of large land holdings will affect the economic efficiency of farms adversely. I hope all of you have accessibility to it. अगर आज accessibility नहीं है notes का, तो घर जाकर देख लेना जरूर एक बार. You must read. And the second part was that if the land holdings become small, then surplus will not be generated, savings in agriculture will fall. So if savings fall, then investment will fall, and more output, more employment generation will suffer. If the land holding size becomes small, then the savings will become small because surplus will not be there. And savings becoming small means investment capacity will become small, and that will then result in depriving agriculture of higher production and redistribution possibilities. Now, if you ask me empirically in India, in the last 40-50 years, this has come true, empirically speaking. That land holdings have been, but even though we didn't do any land ceiling, much of it. But this happened that with increase in population and rising pressure of population on land, this problem has happened. the second part, that surplus in agriculture has not been discovered much. What is an agricultural surplus? Where farmers grow enough higher amount which they can then redistribute among each other. It's like increasing the per capita production significantly. And that creates agricultural surplus. Now see, Green Revolution did increase production significantly, but it could not reduce the pressure of population on land with high population growth in India. I told you this the other day also, I'm repeating it again. We were 40 crore people at the time of independence, and we added another 40 crore within 40 years. तो जितने हम इंडिपेंडेंस के वक्त थे उतने और ऐड हो गए 40 साल के अंदर, उससे थोड़े ज्यादा 44 करोड़, and we have added another 44 crore in the next 30 years, and the majority of population lives in rural areas. Like I'll give you an example, 90% of population was rural population in India in 1951. मैं मान रहा हूँ सब जिंदा है मेरी बात पे, कभी कभी मैं नोट से बोल रहा होता हूँ ना तो आपके ऊपर निद्रा देवी हावी होंगी, alright? आप स्वयं को इस बात से बचाओगे, ठीक है? मेरी बात सुनते रहना, मैं सारी बात तुम्हें लिखवा नहीं सकता, तो कुछ बातें बकूंगा, ठीक है? उस बकबक को सुन लोगे ताकि तुम लिख सको या दिमाग में रख सको चीजों को। तो मैं तुम्हें फिर से बता रहा हूं, ये आखिरी बात जो शुरू की थी, 40 crore people in India in 1951, 90% in rural areas involved in agriculture related activities and all. So 36 crore people related to agriculture and related activities. 2021 India, 65% population in rural areas, but imagine now the population is almost touching 140 crore, which will mean 65% in rural areas will imply that we are talking of something like 90 crore people now in rural areas involved in agriculture and so on. Even if we assume that 70% of these people are in agriculture directly or indirectly, it is still almost doubling the number of people who were in agriculture at the time of independence. So that is where the surplus production becomes a suffering point. Also remember, in rural areas, when people develop a surplus also, due to lack of modernization of financial sector in rural areas and all, most of the surplus is reinvested as purchase of extra land rather than the surplus reinvested as financial asset. So all that means that a surplus is not produced at times, and if produced doesn't reach investment level. Do I believe we understand that? So that analysis you need to keep in mind. If somebody asks us that, all right, what's the reason that still productivity is low in Indian agriculture? One reason is this, that productivity is low because investment is low. And I will speak more on this hopefully by tomorrow or day after itself. All right, so this was the cases for and against sealing. Now you write below that, benefits of land sealing. Benefits of land sealing. If you recall, day before yesterday, I had told you that they had asked us questions on benefit in the past. So I'm just making you write all the benefits to prepare you for that. So benefits of land sealing. And you write, Land Sealing Act. Land Sealing Act resulted in more effort by the government to collect data on land record which was followed in several states like Kerala, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, etc. Change the paragraph and write, it also resulted, this is the second benefit of land ceiling, it also resulted in some redistribution of land holding among landless farmers, even though the incidences were few. All right, so these are the two benefits you can write. So remember, combine the benefits of zamindari removal, benefits of tenancy reforms, and benefits of land ceiling. All right, there was no benefit of land consolidation. Can't make you write anything, even if I try making up, So we hardly did the reform, so can't do that. So combine these benefits in case they ever ask you what are the benefits of land reforms in India. All right, if they ever ask you that question. Then remember, the problem with land ceiling were almost similar to the problems we have observed with tenancy reforms. Land records were missing. That was one problem that we had. Another big issue was sometimes what the farmers would do, the big farmers, they will deliberately and voluntarily come over and surrender their bad quality land. Suppose there is a land where water remains filled throughout the year. Suppose there is a wasteland. All this kind of land, they would come and surrender. They'll say, okay, I am under ceiling, this much is my land. And again, apathy part comes in. As a bureaucrat, keeping records, in any case, you are not very well trained in doing all this. Now somebody comes to you and says, look, I'm surrendering this much part of the land. You say, oh, bade achhe aadmi hai, khud se aakar apna zameen de rahe hai. Now you don't pursue the fellow a lot. You don't tell the fellow, give me more land. You say, all right, the fellow is depositing their own land and they are nice people and so on. So some people started doing this also, that they would come and give those wasteland which was of no use to those to whom it got redistributed. And how will the government not know? Because everything happened on paper sitting in a state capital. तो आप मान लीजिए अपने स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के, आप say you are from Madhya Pradesh and you are in Bhopal. So you are sitting in Bhopal, somebody comes and tells you, look, मैं गांव से आया हूँ, ये जमीन सरेंडर कर रहा हूँ. आप अपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफिस फोन करते हो, आप बोलते हो ठीक है ये जमीन इतनी सरेंडर हो गई. अब आपके जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफिस है वो भी नहीं गए हैं गांव में कभी, nobody has been there, but you get a record, okay, this much land has been surrendered, you redistribute it and put it in some peasant's name. That peasant knows that that land is not worthwhile. That peasant can come back to you and tell you, sir, what kind of land have you given me? What is standard response that you would give the fellow? एक तो तुम्हें फ्री में मिल रहा है, उसमें भी तुम्हें और अच्छा क्वालिटी खराब क्वालिटी चाहिए. You understand that? That we are giving it to you and now you are talking about quality. Why are you so fussy about taking a land? So you don't even appreciate that the land that the fellow got was of no use practically. You understand that? So these things were done again pretty often in those days, and that was the failure of land ceiling. So if you will again see your notes, I've given you the assessment and 3 points I have given you. Only 2% of net sown area reported under ceiling. This was one failure, all right, that we could hardly get things. I hope you have found it. All right. Then prevalence of Benami transactions. Benami transaction is people born overnight, land transferred to people overnight, making sure that land remains not under ceiling. You understand that? That I will immediately make somebody with an 18-year-old, I'll create a figment of imagination. So there were various things done. बहुत families में छोटे बच्चों को 18 साल के ऊपर का दिखा दिया गया. Don't forget, there were not days of Aadhaar card and all that. There were days when the records could be fudged easily. So small kids were shown above 18 years. There were families where land was immediately transferred to a nearby member. तो ठीक है, ये जिसको लैंड ट्रांसफर किया गया वो लेके भाग जाएगा इस जमीन को, isn't it? ये जानते थे लैंडलॉर्ड इनको जान से मार देंगे. That was the control the landlord would have. So they say, okay, I'll transfer the land in this fellow's name. It should not come in my name. And in worst of cases, there will be no person on whose name the land will be created. From here only the name Benami transaction came. All right, this Benami transaction name came because there were people created, fictitious. They just didn't exist. But in their name, the land will be transferred. So effectively, it was the landlord's name. Plus, in India, it was very easy to do that. All right, there can be, we still have that. Thankfully, now we are improved and so on. But till very late we used to have a situation where one person could be Vibhasja, another person will be simply Vibhas. These are two people, don't forget. Another people will be Vibhash Jha, and another person could be Vibhas Jha. And I can have 4 bank accounts and 4 records of mine based on this. And then I could put my money into one account, another account. I can also make sure that land is registered in one name or the other name. And I can do all that. And on paper, you cannot track me down. Because again, we are talking 50s. They were not computerized days that I had to come clean on everything. And the interesting part is even now in India, in many places, people have not come clean on this. आप देखना, आप कहोगे सर ये कैसी बात है, तो आप स्पेलिंग का हेर फेर दिखा रहे हो. आप अगर इंश्योरेंस लेते हो कहीं, आपने तो नहीं लिया होगा शायद, अभी पेरेंट्स ने लिया होगा, उनसे पूछना. इंश्योरेंस लेते हो या कभी किसी डॉक्टर के पास चेकअप के लिए जाते हो, समटाइम्स दे विल आस्क यू टू डबल चेक योर स्पेलिंग. एंड इफ दे डोंट, देन लीव द एजेंट. द फेलो इज नॉट प्रोफेशनल इनफ. क्योंकि अगर मैंने इंश्योरेंस लिया इस नाम से मैंने हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस लिया इस नाम से, और हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट हुआ और हॉस्पिटल के रिकॉर्ड में ये नाम आया, तो मुझे इंश्योरेंस नहीं मिलेगा. ये रिकॉर्ड है. आई विल नॉट गेट द इंश्योरेंस. सो माय नेम्स हैव टू बी करेक्ट एंड क्लियर. बट दैट इज टुडेज इंडिया. But 50-60 years back, people didn't bother. And that was Benami transaction. And then imagine if I can create other names also along with that and get the land transferred in those names. So all that was happening, and that was the reason Land Sealing Act was not much successful in India. The third point I explained to you, that deliberately transferred barren lands under sealing to make sure that they could be repurchased or make sure that they have shown something on record that they have transferred. So this was India's situation on land sealing. Then below that you would see consolidation of land holdings. Do I believe you recall the explanation I had given you on consolidation of land holdings? Person A, person B, person C. Now see, this consolidation of land holdings, it just didn't pick up in India. Nobody came up. Even the poor farmers were not in favor, and the rich farmers also many times were not in favor. तो बहुत सारे states ने, in fact 13 states in India did not pass any rule regarding this till as late as 1980s, and 11 states in India never passed a rule on this. There's a land consolidation करना ही नहीं हमें. We will not be doing land consolidation. But before I go further, एक सवाल आपके मन में आ सकता है. One of your friends has asked it online also, that sir, you say that the large land was left not used, like monoculture on larger land. So why was monoculture practiced on a larger land? Because the absolute returns were high from the larger land, even if there was monoculture. You understand that? If I am a big landlord and I have 100 acres of land, then the absolute return to me will be high, even if I am practicing monoculture. That is why on large land, monoculture was practiced. In case it comes to your mind, that why was monoculture practiced on a large land? My absolute returns were high. Rather, on a medium scale land, my absolute returns would not be that high. Alright, so that was the reason on large land, monoculture was practiced. Now taking you into consolidation of land holdings, and to be honest to you, this is the least expected part of land reforms that I feel from your exam's point of view. But again, if you see, there were major issues that we saw. Now first of all, why did we just remain on that page 19, and you will see the agricultural वो expert committee है, export committee misprint है, उसे ठीक कर लो. The agricultural expert committee. You want, I can do it here. The agricultural expert committee of in 1959, they promoted land reforms, saying that it will help in controlling wastage of land, the land boundaries. You know, so if you remove the boundaries, a lot of new land will be released. All right, so land boundaries will be removed and wastage of land can be controlled. The second thing they said was, please add that, remove difficulty in modernization. It should not only be difficulty in modernization, remove difficulty in modernization. And the third point should also be remove difficulty in land management. So please correct it in your notes. Remove difficulty in modernization and remove difficulty in land management due to disputes over boundaries, that this is my boundary and this is your boundary. So if land can be consolidated, then boundary related disputes could be minimized. All right, so that was the reason they said that we will tend to have land consolidation. But land consolidation could not succeed mainly because of difference in quality of soil. That was problem one. So if you tell someone, okay, you take 1 acre in that place of the village and we give you 1 acre here, the person will object saying, no, my quality is different from this place's quality. All right, तो land एक जैसा नहीं होता था पूरे गांव का, तो लोग अदला बदली करने को तैयार नहीं होते थे. The land will not be of same quality, so people were not happy exchanging land with each other. Second was the lack of land records. So sometimes you would exchange land and then it was realized that land belonged to somebody else. All right, so lack of land records was a major issue in this. Then the government staff was not adequately trained to understand the quality of land, to compensate the farmers for loss of land. You know, you needed people who were trained in agricultural landholding usage, people who understood the region well, but don't forget there were days when we did not even have enough literacy. So that meant we did not have enough trained people who could have effortlessly done this transformation. See, any transition like this will be on a large scale. What is one big important thing it will need? What it will need is those who are responsible for this transition are completely clear about what they are doing. You understand this? Say for example, I am teaching you economics optional. At least I should be clear about what is there in the optional. But imagine if I am not clear about my things. Then one day you will raise an objection and I will get confused within that objection. आप हो सकता है ऐसे ही बस innocuously कोई सवाल पूछे. अगर मैं ही prepared नहीं हूँ अपनी क्लास के लिए, तो आपके सवाल में मुझे लगा पता नहीं कैसी कैसी बात हुई, फिर मैं कुछ और बोलने लग जाऊंगा, कुछ और बात हो जाएगी, and that will confuse people more. Then they will come up next day with more questions that will confuse things even more. Then that is where degradation begins. This is what was happening. Many people who were in the government, especially state government, and that also at the Patwari level or at circle officer level, were people who were bureaucrats, were people who were holding land records, but not trained in the way the system would function. How the transition will take place, they had no clue about that. So land management was becoming a problem here. How to manage the transition from one land system to another. And that created what is your fourth point, and I'm just explaining it to you. That created two issues. One, the sentimental attachments to land by peasants came into picture, but more importantly, it created trust issues. आप एक पटवारी हो मान लो, मैं आपके पास आया, मैंने बोला मेरा रिकॉर्ड तो बताता है ये मेरी जमीन है, आपका रिकॉर्ड क्या बताता है, और आप मुझे सही रिकॉर्ड ना दिखा पाओ, मेरा आपसे ट्रस्ट खत्म होगा. अब मैं तैयार ही नहीं होऊंगा किसी ट्रांजैक्शन के लिए. You understand that if you are a government officer, I come to you with my held records and our records don't match and you don't have an answer to why they are not matching. Now my faith on you is compromised and I can think that, oh, maybe this is a method or ploy by which my land will be taken over, given to the rich one, and I will not be willing to give that. So poor farmers went against that for this one reason. Trust was the missing link. All right, the trust was the missing factor. They didn't trust the change. And poor farmers went against it because of the sentimental attachment that they had on the land. That there was a sentimental attachment that this land has been cultivated generationally by my parents and my grandparents, and so I should also be, cultivating it. And when the land was taken away, they would resist it. Do I believe you are with me on this? All right, yes, yes. Because all consolidated land doesn't make it a more than 10 hectare land. If you have 1 acre land, 1 hectare land, and you consolidate even 6 acre of that, you're not still going beyond the productivity horizon. All right. I had one more. Yes, yes. अगर मान लो तुम एक फार्मर हो, सब फार्मर के पास अपने अपने रिकॉर्ड होते थे, वो अपना रिकॉर्ड लेकर गए सरकार के ऑफिस में, तो ठीक है कंसोलिडेशन में पार्टिसिपेट करना है, आई विल पार्टिसिपेट इन द कंसोलिडेशन, बट दिस इज माय रिकॉर्ड, आई एम होल्डिंग दिस मच लैंड. Say the government officer's record and your records don't match. All right, say for example. Now they may not match because of simply a discrepancy in record keeping, for as simple a reason as that. But suppose the government officer in place is unable to or unwilling to explain to you as to why these records are not matching. Now your trust on the system that it will seamlessly do what it is trying to do will become lesser. And you will feel that it's possible I might give my land and I may not get back the same quality and same amount, and then you will resist giving your land. All right, that was the problem part. I just want you to write a heading. I'm not taking you into that at the moment, but I'll remember it tomorrow, so I'm doing that. The heading I want you to write is, you just take that down, Modern Land Reforms. Modern Land Reforms. Modern land reforms is, I'll try giving you 100 words on what can India do now on land reforms. Sometimes they ask you this question, that what steps should be taken on land reforms currently in India. So I'll give you around 100, 110 words on what should India do now on land reforms. In the meantime, your book has talk on cooperative farming. Please read through that. There is nothing much to teach in it, but you read through that, cooperative farming and all. All right, when you come tomorrow, just read through cooperative farming and green revolution. That's on page 23 in your book, Green Revolution, page 23. So go through green revolution, criticisms, benefits, etc. We will discuss these things as I see you tomorrow then. And please carry your notes. I will be using these notes tomorrow again. Thank you. Only 2% of net zone area. That is that hardly any area was reported for sealing. No area was reported. Like people were not even reporting their area. Government could not catch people who were above sealing. All right. Bhudan movement had an impact, no doubt, but not majorly. I hope you got the answer, Parul. Land sealing and land consolidation are not contradictory. It's possible you can consolidate the land within 15 acres. It's possible that due to high MPC, the farmers can put more money on consumption. Rashmi? I hope you got the answer, Pratishtha, of why the land was consolidated. Because you didn't need to necessarily consolidate them to beyond 10 acres. The records were not available on fertility of soil. Large farmers thought they will lose their land holdings. I just answered it. I hope you got it, Ashfaq, that land policies, land sealing and land consolidation are not opposite of each other. Just check my video day before yesterday, Akanksha. You will see land consolidation there. The problem is, how do you grade it? Now we have started the soil health card scheme, but that is the problem part. Yes, yes.
I'm not understanding your report, like, are the clean is done?
Yes, so it was said that you can repurchase the land from the tenant. Like say, tenant receives the land. All right, the land ownership is given to tenant. Now the landlord was told you can repurchase the land from the tenant at the price fixed by government. You cannot repurchase on your own fixed prices. All right, but that did not succeed much because tenants did not have the capacity to buy the land. Like it was said that okay, landlord will not have to give the land for free to the tenant. The landlord can purchase the land, the tenant can purchase the land from the landlord. But in many cases, in spite of government subsidy, the tenant did not have enough money to pay the landlord.
No, I mean, my question is that here is a repurchase, so I feel like before the earlier the land was belonged to the tenant or what?
No, the land belonged to the landlord, and then the purchase of land by the tenant from the landlord. So you don't distribute it for free, let the tenant purchase it. All right? But only above 5 hectares and 10 hectares. The comparison was that. No, I mean if you go below 5 hectares, we will discuss dualism in labor market, don't worry. Yes, yes. So understand, Hanumant Rao was explicitly putting the numbers 5 hectares and 10 hectares. No, it was a comparison, small compared to the larger one. All right. कि इंडिया का जो इंक्रीमेंटल कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो था वो थ्रू आउट द पीरियड कम था, मतलब अगर तुम थोड़ा कैपिटल लगाओगे तो आउटपुट ज्यादा बढ़ेगा. ये अच्छी बात है. हाँ, ये अच्छी बात है. हाँ, 10 एकड़ से कम में, 5 से 10 एकड़ में ज्यादा एफिशिएंसी थी. अच्छा नहीं, क्योंकि राधाकृष्ण कमेटी ने कहा कि 15 एकड़ होना चाहिए, क्योंकि इससे कम करेंगे तो बहुत लोग डिस्ट्रॉट हो जाएंगे. लोग 100 एकड़ होल्ड कर रहे थे, तो अब तुम सडनली उसको 15 से भी कम ले जाओगे. ठीक है. और राधाकृष्ण कमेटी के रिपोर्ट्स नहीं थे. हनुमंत राव कमेटी की रिपोर्ट आई 58 में, राधाकृष्ण कमेटी आई 54 में, तो अलग बातें थी. आई विल जस्ट टेक 1 सेकेंड. All this period is 1950 to 1960, Pritha. Because small farmers didn't have a choice, Ayushi, but to practice monoculture, because small farmers were devoid of any new technology, etc. All right, that is why they were using small agriculture. Land has been fragmented too much because that is because of population increase. Eviction मतलब निकाल देना अमन. Eviction का मतलब निकाल देना land से. $15 acre per family will mean, say I am a father, I have 2 children, my family has 15 acre land. Now my 2 children will have 7.5 acre land. Burhan, where are you thinking here? Moonlighting and gig economy I will discuss with you, Yash. Please wait on that. Yes, yes. Yeah, it was approximately 4, which was not because of higher productivity of capital, but due to very less usage. ये जो लो आईकॉर था वो इसलिए नहीं था क्योंकि कैपिटल एफिशिएंट था, बट क्योंकि हम कैपिटल बहुत कम इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे. ठीक है, तो इसीलिए उसको क्रिटिसाइज किया गया. I'll teach you dualism. You wait till tomorrow. I will be teaching you dualistic labor market in agriculture. 1955. Total savings हैं ये, saving by households and private sector and savings by government. तो अगर ये total savings इस investment से ज़्यादा हो गई तो हमारे पास surplus होगा जिसे मैं export कर सकता हूँ. No, savings are your resources left after utilization. So if I have more left after utilization, then that means I have a surplus in my hand. and that surplus can be given to people abroad. हाँ, कि डोमेस्टिक सेविंग चाहिए टू मीट दीज रिक्वायरमेंट्स, बट अगर करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट है तो वो डोमेस्टिक सेविंग से पूरा नहीं हो पाएगा, क्योंकि ये तो डॉलर में है और ये रूपी में है, तो इसके लिए तो मुझे फॉरेन सेविंग चाहिए ही. तो दैट इज द डुअल गैप प्रॉब्लम. हाँ, और फॉरेन सेविंग्स भी नहीं आ रहे हैं. राइट. If it was, नहीं वो देखो कैडर बेस्ड था नहीं, कैडर बेस्ड बना दिया गया इसको धीरे धीरे, कि जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज जब रूल में आई तो उन्होंने इसको कैडर बेस्ड बनाया कि हमारे बेनिफिट की बात हो जाएगा. ठीक है, कानून खराब थोड़ी होते हैं, उनका इस्तेमाल खराब किया जाता है. इकोनॉमिक्स को डिसमल साइंस लोग कहते थे, क्योंकि इसमें इस केस में मॉनेटरी सिस्टम की बात होती थी और इसके अंदर एम्पेरिकल एविडेंस की बात उस वक्त नहीं होती थी. कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग वाज नॉट अ सॉल्यूशन वेरी इजीली, देवेंद्र, बिकॉज पीपल वर नॉट विलिंग टू फॉर्म अ कोऑपरेटिव. केस अगेंस्ट सीलिंग इज अ काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट. ओके, यस, द फर्स्ट इंप्लीमेंटेशन वाज इन केरला 1958. Yes, yes. Okay, I'll tell you. Give me a second. I'll just say bye-bye to your online friends. So people online, if you have more doubts, you can leave your message with me. I'll respond. I'll meet you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. I'll tell you.